Okay, let's see. I think we're live now. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
How's
Hi.
everybody doing? Immigration has finally answered our prayers.
Amen.
ICC has finally answered our prayers after much panicking, which is exciting. It's exciting. First thing on Friday morning, someone sent me a message. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I'm like, yeah, this is what we've been waiting for. And it was just like, oh God, what are these people? What have they planned for these people? I'm sure it's not what we've expected at all. But before we get into that, thank you everybody for joining our live stream. My name is Simi. I'm the lead consultant for Citadel Global Immigration. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. And if not, please put it in the chat box or in on if you're joining on Instagram, also let us know. And I have today with me some of my colleagues in the industry, and I felt that, this session, this pilot program is one that you shouldn't take it head on alone. You need more people. So I felt that we should talk more about what we've seen in this, with this policy and what we think about it. So we're going to be talking about the pilot program, the eligibility requirement that is out now, and what to expect, how to prepare your application, who are the people that are eligible. So before we get into that, I'll give the floor to you guys to introduce yourself and, you know, let us know how you came into immigration practice, how long you've been practicing for. Okay, who wants to go first?
Hi. My name is Ketmi. I am the CEO for Canada Outreach Immigration. I'm an RCIC, that is licensed immigration consultant. And I've been in this business since 2019, covering all aspects of immigration and also into recruiting international students. So it's my pleasure to be here today talking about this much talked about and much awaited program from IRCC.
I know, much
So
awaited. I feel like everybody has been on their bench.
Yep. It only took 53 days, guys. I literally
Right.
counted from January when they announced the first time.
Oh,
So yesterday, 53 whole days. But we
can
made
you
it.
imagine? We are here. We're
yeah,
here. Okay, so Amma, you want to introduce
Yeah,
yourself?
go. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here with fellow colleagues as well. Like Simi said, this is not a policy where we can kind of just do it on our own. And so my name is Amma, and I'm the founder of BTG Immigration Consulting, and I've been practicing, you know, fully since 2021, 2022. But I've always had a passion for immigration and helping people for as long as I could remember. So I'm excited to dive in with these beautiful ladies and also just see where we can help you with, because I know a lot of you have questions. You're trying to figure it out. We also have some questions, but we're
Mhm.
here to support
Yes.
you. We're here to support you, and we're all licensed, regulated Canadian immigration consultants. And maybe later on, we can just talk a little bit about that, considering it's still fraud
Fraud.
prevention month.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I was just going to get into that. That also, since it's still the fraud prevention month, we just want to just raise awareness about that. So the only people you should be paying for services, consultations are people who are registered and licensed. And feel free, there's a lot of information on registered consultant, how to find immigration registered consultant or immigration lawyers and CIC, RSC, yeah, Canada has a lot of information on that. They try to create that awareness for you not to engage unauthorized practitioners, right? Because a lot of times you don't have an idea of what you're putting, what they're including in your application. And so when you don't know, when they're not registered, they're not licensed, they take your money, they put application together, you don't have control of the documents that were submitted to you sometimes. And then you get a ban. You wonder why you've gotten a ban. You have a misrepresentation already in your name. This is because you're engaging the use of unauthorized representative. And unfortunately, there is no way that they can be tracked down. There's no fine. There's no repercussion for what they've done. Unfortunately, it's your name. And legally speaking, even though you engage an unauthorized person, you're responsible for whatever information was submitted for you. So it's very important that you know what documents have your portal in your name, and have know the documents that was I'm emphasizing on that because a lot of times I get clients. I know maybe you guys can also share on that. We get clients and they say, "Oh, what documents did you submit?" "Oh, I don't know. My agent was the one that handled it." That's not good, because this information is your, and immigration has records. They know how to keep records. And I guess maybe this is also one of the things that we would have to emphasize on, because one of the things when we're talking about the job offer, you'll have to be careful in you have to be careful in putting in information that you've not put in your that they don't have in your file. So that's also another thing, right? So you have to make sure you're aware of what's going on in your file. Do not just pay people who are unauthorized. You pay them for consultation. You're basically engaging in fraud. And if anything negative happens, you will be responsible for that. Do you guys have anything to say with regards to that?
I think you said it well. Just to add to what you said, yesterday I was live on TikTok and basically the same thing. Somebody came up and was, pretty upset that IRCC refused the application and it made no sense. And so I asked them and I said, "Did you put that application yourself?" And the person said no. So I'm like, there you go. Like, and then I was like, "Do you know what documents were included on it?" And the person said no. But the person was like, "Oh, I'm still cognizant with immigration." And it doesn't matter if you know IRCC's website in and out. If you don't put in that application yourself, you can't vouch for the person that has put it in. So I think I just wanted to add that, like Simi said, it's your due diligence, but ignorance is not an excuse with the
It's not.
Canadian law, right?
Yeah.
I tell everybody, so many people don't want to go on IRCC's website. They want to be spoon fed. Make sure you're only going on IRCC's website, not blogs, not Instagram, not TikTok,
Mhm.
because there's so many misinformation out there. We,
Yes.
as the consultants, we're here to supplement what you already know or clarify what you already know, but you're getting those information from IRCC. And I always tell my clients there is no shortcut to immigration, right? If there was, more people will be doing it, right? So it's better you do it the right way, take the
Mhm.
longer route and get approved once and for all. Because I typically go live with a lawyer, and what ends up happening is you end up spending more money than you were trying
Exactly.
to save, right? Because now you have a
Exactly.
PFL, a ban. Now the application is way more complicated, right? So just do things the right way. And
Mhm.
if you don't want to use us, this is not a call to use any of us. Please do the application yourself. I tell everybody you are welcome to use one of us or any other licensed representative. But if you don't want to, make sure you're submitting the application yourself at the very least, right? Then that way you can vouch for what you
What was
included
submitted.
and say, okay, this is what I did, right? So that's
Mhm.
what I'll just add to that.
Okay, Kitumi.
Yeah, tons of people are losing money and out there. A lot of people, you hear people are paid $10,000,
Mm,
uh,
Yep.
10 million naira, 20 million naira to fake agents,
mm,
fake consultants. And at the end of the day, they don't know what was submitted on their behalf.
mm,
I've had a client who was refused. And at the end of the day, we found out that what was submitted for him was that he had a wife and two children, and he's not married.
And he's not, oh my
mm,
goodness.
mm,
Yeah. So
Oh
he
my
was
goodness.
refused, and
mm,
they said he misrepresented himself.
mm,
So that became a problem because he got a ban.
mm.
So he can't
And
interact.
let me just add, for a ban, that's 5 years.
Yeah,
5 years ban.
yeah,
You are
he can't
not, you can't do
interact
any
for the
application to
next 5 years.
Canada.
And and then he couldn't even find the agent again. He couldn't find the person he used. So
Mm,
Some situations, some people come up
just
dead.
do your due diligence. Don't be
mhm,
too
Yep.
much in a hurry, or
Mm-hmm.
you know trying to cut corners. Or yeah, and don't just believe everything you hear.
Yes.
There's a lot of misinformation out there. try to confirm what you're hearing before you jump into the train. Otherwise, the train will take you to the wrong destination.
That's true.
I keep telling
That's
them.
true. And I should just say that also, I know a lot of people sometimes they will say, oh, my friend did it this way. I can do it this way too. Your friend is not you. Just because your friend might have scaled through doesn't mean you might be the one that they will catch.
Yeah.
So please, 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 fraud prevention must be careful how much you're paying people and what they're promising you. And some people will promise you job, they'll promise you accommodation. Please, let's be realistic. It's 2025, okay? Please stay informed. Like my colleague said, Amma, ignorance, unfortunately, is not an excuse. You knew, you didn't know, it's not, you get a ban. Okay, so please let's be aware. So, yes, like your sister, misrepresentation is real, guys. Misrepresentation is real, it's no joke. So, and it also affects, let me add this, it also affects your other family members. So, because the moment somebody is inadmissible, if your spouse is inadmissible, unfortunately, you as the other spouse that did not even is not aware, you can actually reap from that. So please be careful. It's very, very, very important. You take it seriously. So on that note, I want us to get to the exciting one. I don't know how we were feeling yesterday. How did you guys feel yesterday when this news came out?
Honestly, I was like, finally it's out. It's only 10 days left. And I was like, IRCC is very strategic about this, right? They've stalled it to this point because they're actually trying to get rid of the people that don't qualify and actually reserve
Mhm.
the space for the people that qualify. So I actually went live yesterday morning as soon as it came out because I wanted to be one of the first people because in effort to make our presence known. I already
Mhm.
started seeing all these so-called
Oh
TikTok
Lord.
influencers, social media gurus already passing misinformation, right? So I wanted to give people, logistics idea. I've been talking about the application fees because it is hefty. I looked at it and
It
I was like,
is. It's
it's
hefty.
hefty. It is hefty, hefty. 1,525 per
It's no
applicant.
joke.
It's not a joke,
It's
right?
not a
And so
joke.
I went on live to kind of explain, but I think we're still digesting it. Like every time I look at
I
the
think, yep.
policy, I'm like, whew,
Something else stands out to you. It's like, oh my
yeah. I'm
goodness.
like, what was IRCC thinking, right?
I feel like IRCC was they really, and I was telling KSA also yesterday that they know, if you understand the objectives of immigration right now, you would know that there's a strategic way they want to do. They know the kind of people they're looking for. And
Absolutely.
they're not, it's not, unfortunately, and so it's like immigration is also in seasons, right? There's times where they're looking for people, and there are times where that is just like, no, we know the people that we want, those in demand occupations, those skilled professionals, those are the people. So if you understand their objective, you will understand why some things are not what it is.
Mm,
We'll get into like the job offer, like the eligible applicant. But let me also say this, please. For those who are looking to apply on March 31st, please, if you do not meet the eligibility requirement that we're going to talk about now, please, I beg you, do not apply. I know it's hard, it will come off harsh and hard, but I just want to say it. Please do not apply because you're going to be stealing spots of people that actually qualify. And if you put yourself in that situation too, you could be the other person too, right? So you don't want, if you do not qualify, please don't say that, oh, maybe I can just, who knows what's will happen, I can just package the
mm.
application. Please don't do that. Please, please,
Yeah, and
let's be fair
you
and
waste money
respectful.
too.
It's a waste of money too because you
Yeah,
have to pay 1,500. They might refund the
yes.
processing right of permanent residence fee, but that 950 is gone.
Mhm.
That 950 is gone. So you've someone is saying, sorry, I have Instagram on the other line, so I'm trying to. So someone said, what's the conversation about? The conversation is about the immigration pilot program that is opening March 31st, 2025. So we're going to be dissecting what this pathway is all about, who is eligible and who can apply. Okay. So Guys, what do you think? Who are the people that can apply? I'll also share my screen at the same time so you all can see it. Let me do that now. Um, so guys, what do you think about the people that can apply? Any thoughts? Yes,
Yeah.
feel free to take on.
Well, there are two streams. You have those
Mm-hmm.
for workers in Canada, those who are already in Canada already, and the ones outside Canada, which is not open yet.
Mhm,
So this program, like someone is asking, what's this program about, or what's the talk about, is for home care workers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the two streams, the stream that will open in March 31st is the stream of the people who are already working in Canada, and those who can apply at this time.
mhm,
And those are the ones that the eligibility criteria is very clear.
mhm,
And
Mm-hmm. And
come,
when you say workers, also maybe we should go further to define that. Who are the workers in Canada that Canada has said they're working in Canada? So I just shared. Can you guys see my screen? Let me just see on Instagram.
yeah, we
Can
can see.
everybody see?
I can,
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
I can see it.
Okay. So to be eligible for the workers in Canada, like Tommy said, for you to qualify under this pathway, you have to be a worker in Canada. And worker means you have to have a valid work permit.
mhm,
Unfortunately, refugee claimants are not considered with valid, work permit because the work permit is given under their refugee status, right?
mhm,
So unfortunately, you are not eligible for that. Also, so basically, postgraduate work permit holders, spousal open work permit. If you have a valid, even if it's a closed work permit, I believe will also qualify under as long as it's a valid work permit, you
Mm,
would be eligible for that. And for those who are maybe you've submitted, we're actually having this discussion before we came on live, who have submitted postgraduate work permit, you haven't received your work permit yet. At that point, you would also be qualified under work permit, maintain status, because you have that authorization to work letter that you would have gotten, right? So in that policy, as for this, for you to know, there's different layers to this, right? We're not talking about work experience. I'm not talking about the job offer that you need right now. We're talking about the work permit. If you, as a worker, whether or not you meet that first criteria, right? So you'll have to be a worker in Canada. And then if there's any other public policy that immigration has and you have a work permit on the valid work permit under, then you can also join. You can also apply, right? And let's look at what doesn't count as eligibility work authorization for this stream. Those who have business visitor, who are here on visitors visa, unfortunately, this stream right now is not for you. If you're on a study permit as well, this stream right now is not for you. We go further to say those who are not, if you don't have any work authorization at all, if you don't have a status at all, this stream is also not for you. There's streams for that. The out of status worker is for those who are either visitors or those who are out of status. You don't even have a legal status. We're not going to be talking too much about that today because, again, the stream is not open yet. Maybe we'll do another live session on that. But today we just want to specifically talk about the one opening for March 31st. Do you guys have any thoughts to that? Any other addition to that?
I
yeah.
think I'll just add, so I'll just say, the reason students are not included, because I definitely got a lot of questions and maybe a lot of disappointment, is because as a student, your primary role in Canada is to go to school to study.
That's
Yes,
true.
you're able to work, but that's an aside. That's more like to get by and just make ends meet. Because I've had
Mm-hmm.
so many students be like, but I've been working in the PSW caregiving industry. Why don't I qualify? And, trying to explain to them, like, according to the regulations and the acts, a student is somebody that studies. So I just wanted to clarify that's part of the reason why you don't qualify on a study permit despite working in the industry, also because your work experience for permanent resident only starts when you're on a postgraduate work permit, right? I don't think a
Right.
lot of students understand that. So I just wanted to say
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah, the other thing to note is for you to be eligible, you have to have arrived Canada from December 16, 2021. So if you've
Right.
been here before then, you would not be eligible for
Right.
this program.
For the
And
for the I believe that's the out of status one, in
Yeah.
fact. Yeah, that you have to be eligible. You have to have been in Canada for the from December 2021.
mm,
But we'll
mm,
talk about that on another time. So, but you have to just understand that this one is specific for workers. Unfortunately, like Amma said, because you're a student, they want, their focus is basically for you to, is basically for you to study.
Mhm.
Right? So unfortunately, you won't be eligible to apply.
yeah,
So the other thing that you want to we want to speak about is the language, which I think is not too bad. I mean, CLB4.
yeah. That's very reasonable, right?
Mhm.
See,
Yeah.
yeah, mm,
Yes.
yeah,
So I think someone, so if you're having issues seeing our screen, please go on YouTube. I think it might be clearer there. Like somebody said. So okay, so I said before, honestly, I feel like language is one of the reasons also some people might not qualify for maybe the PR pathway, express entry, because I know quite a few people struggle with that,
yeah.
meeting the minimum or just meeting the CR the
CLB 7.
Mhm.
just the CLB 7, just to even get the actual, like, the points that they need, right?
Mm,
So CLB 4, I think, is pretty reasonable.
mm,
Anybody can achieve this. Then we talk about the education. Education, you have to have a high school. Um, sorry, we'll take some questions after the call so that we can just focus on this path, what we're talking about. So if you have questions, feel free to look them in and we'll look at that. So education, you need to have high school diploma or higher. So if you have a bachelor's, I do want to say that if you obtained your education outside of Canada, though, I hope you've gotten your ECA done, your evaluation, because I know that can take a while.
yeah.
That can take a while, sometimes 40 days. So I hope you already have that sorted. If you've gotten that education in Canada, you can definitely use that, right? And then we talk about the fun things, the work experience. Amma, do you wanna speak on this?
Um, I'm not even sure there's a lot to say besides that. IRCC has kind of given you two options, right? I always tell people to be aware of IRCC's languages, or and they mean two different things. So when IRCC says or, it means you don't have to meet both. You just have to meet
Mm-hmm.
one or the other. So for the work experience, you need either 6 months of continuous full-time work
Mm-hmm.
experience within the past 3 years, or completed relevant training in the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
This can be very subjective because, like, what is relevant? But I think that's where you guys need to go do your own due diligence and actually click on that relevant training link and see what IRCC considers relevant. But again, I think IRCC is very clear about the knock code. So, we'll get to it later on, but even though you gain experience, say, as an early childhood educator, you don't actually qualify to apply for the pathway, right? So IRCC has given us some parameters about this, but I think it's very straightforward. Like, do you have 6 months of continuous full time? And full time, I think we should just maybe specify with immigration is 30
30
hours.
hours.
Anything
Mm-hmm.
less than that, it doesn't matter if it was considered full-time where you were. For IRCC, they need to see 30 hours. You could do more, you could do 30 hours, but that's what they count, right? Because so many people have also come to me to say, in the caregiving industry, they don't always offer
Mm-hmm.
full-time. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write the regulations. This is basically IRCC's words. We're just giving it to you, right, as it is, and then we'll help you answer some questions.
So
So
just to
okay.
just to add to what Amal just said about that space not giving full time, you will see that what IRCC has said is if your employer has to be one that employs you on full-time basis, but gives you assignments to locations on part-time basis. So your employment is full-time, but your daily assignments are not necessarily full-time. But at the end of the week, you may have worked for three locations, 4 locations, but at the end of the week, you must have clocked 30 hours.
Mhm.
That's what
Right.
is,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes. So just to clarify that, so like you were saying, right, that's experience. So you'll have a job offer of full time, right? It has to be full time. It has to, and we'll talk about some of the things that is on the job offer, right? Some of the things that you have to have on the job offer. But for your work experience, it has to be it has to show that you've done 6 months. You can combine part time work that you've done, right? If you've obtained different, if you've worked at different locations and you, or different employers, whatever the case may be, right, you can combine the hours that you've worked. You can use that to show that you have at least 6 months of work experience that you obtained. You did the full time. Your part-time equals full-time, right? And I think that's also the case for CEC, Canadian Experience Class. Also, another thing is I wanted us to look more into the work experience, right? It specific says here, right? Home shared child care providers. So let's look at some of the your experience. Your experience has to have been 6 months of work experience. You can gain that. You could have gained that work experience within or outside Canada. Remember, though it has to be within the last 3 years, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in Canada that you've worked. Now, that experience, if you're applying, one thing that I want us to also pay attention to is if you're applying under the shared care pilot program, you can use your experience that you've gotten as maybe a child care educator as or assistant. You can use that to show your work experience as because it's relevant. But for your job offer, it's different,
Mhm.
right? So for
Mhm.
in order to show the relevant experience, because if you look at the previous pathway would ask for you to show your ability to do the job. Now, ability to do the job could come from maybe work experience that you've done back home or any other training. I said they didn't actually specify at that point in time. But now they're saying your relevant experience could either be under the NOC code of 44100 or under the NOC code as of 42202. Keep in mind though, experience as an early childhood educator, daycare teacher, or supervisor would not count. So you have to look at the other job other job codes that are in under this NOC codes, under job titles that are under this. So I wish I'll see, maybe we can do that as well. So NOC, you look at the job experience as foster parent would not count, but experience as early childhood educator and assistant, provided that it's not any of this title, you can use it to show relevant experience for 6 months. 6 months of work experience. It could have been outside or within Canada. So also another thing, and that's it. That also that same explanation um, applies to home support workers, right? For home support workers, if you're looking to apply under this particular pilot this I need to clarify that you'll have to stick into one one stream. It's either you're doing for childcare or you're doing for home support. You cannot do for both. Right? So your experience, you can use the experience. Maybe you used your experience. You worked as a home support worker, a caregiver, not 44101. You can use that to support your home support experience. You can also use nurse aid, patient service associate, not 33102. You can use that to support your relevant experience under this pathway. However, work experience, it says work experience gained in not gained in an institutional setting may be eligible. So you also need to for, and it specifically says for long-term home care. So you have to, when it comes to IRCC, every word you need to, you need to pay attention to it. One thing that you also want to make sure is that you want to pay attention to, it says where it says that you can have a mix of occupations. So sometimes, right, you may work as, let's say, or help, maybe you have 3 months childhood education. You have 3 months of that as a childhood educator. You can use that experience. If you did 3 months of that, you can also do home. Maybe you have another 3 months of childcare provider experience. You can combine those three experiences under one stream. I really hope this is clear. You can combine that. You can use that to support your relevant experience, but you cannot use it to fit into both streams, right? And then the other thing they go on to say is that, and you have to, it's very, very also important that you look at the job description and in that is within the NOC. Whatever title that you're looking at, job title, go on the NOC and try to look at the job descriptions. Amma, I see that you're smiling. Do you have something to say?
No, I'm just smiling because I'm just listening to everything and I'm just remembering some of the questions that came up yesterday. But I think IRCC's website is very detailed. I don't want us to spend a lot of time. I want us to get to the questions. So what I'll say is let's highlight the parts that are actually important, but we need to give these people the responsibility to actually go back and check, because otherwise we won't be able to get to all the questions,
I know, because
because I'm
we're
looking at
already
the
at
time
12.
and we're already
Yes.
at 32 minutes. So I think what we can do is, like skip over to, like the IRCCs do not, because I think right now everybody's posting on who qualifies. And so let's talk about who is not eligible. You guys need to go and actually do this reading for yourself, because otherwise we're not going to get to the questions. It's just so detailed that if we
It's
go through
very, very
everything,
detailed.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
maybe scroll over to the training and then just go over to the part of what doesn't count as a training, so people can see, but then they can go read the details. Like, I was
Right.
smiling because it says training that is done online doesn't count,
Oh,
which
yes. Yes, absolutely. Because and the reason why I just want to also just mention, spend more time on that, like, because I know a lot of people will get confused as to what experience and job offer,
no,
right?
for sure. I think we just have to do it in a way where it's either we're doing just the policies and no questions, or questions and no policies, right? Because I think for us to do both, given the time, IRCC's policies are not policies that we can just glance over,
We can't
right?
do that. You need to have, and I should just say that if you do have further questions with this, right, you can always send us an email, book a consultation, and so see how we can help you. But it's important
Mm-hmm.
that you pay attention to some of this eligibility requirement. Make sure you understand what experiences you can use, and also what experiences you can use, and also what experience you cannot, what qualifies as a job offer, right? So that distinction is very important. Before we just, and again, it says be full time, meaning 30 hours. It's already in there what you need to show. Authorized, you have to have been working under a valid work permit or a maintained status to qualify for that. And what else? So I think I've touched more on that. For the training now, this is also another thing that was a shocker. Your training has to be targeted towards the occupation, and it has to be done mainly in person. Amma, since you brought that up, you want to go ahead?
No, I honestly just, because again, that's what I'm saying. I'm still even processing it, right? Because the reason why I brought that up is because I know a lot of people who did some training online, especially, like post pandemic when we were still just
No.
getting back
Mm-hmm.
into the real, back into what you used to be before, right? But IRCC has said that your training could not have been done mainly online. So now it just makes me wonder, like the people that actually got the training in the last 2 years, how did they get the training? Did they actually do it in person or not, right? I'm just curious about that. and it could not have been on the job training, which is very
No.
interesting. So like
Yes.
IRCC doesn't want it to be a case of you got the job and then they started training you,
Absolutely.
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I should just add also the training has to have been within 2 years, in the last
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Kitumi, you have something to
2023,
say?
right? Because we're in
Yep.
2025, so it had to be
Yeah.
Yes. So
from
March,
Yeah.
at least between March and
Me.
2022, 2023, between March 2023 to now. Yeah. You can't use, and it has to, and not just be in class. You have to have at least 15 hours of training per week.
It's a
Oh,
lot.
IRCC.
There's a lot.
Kitumi, you want to say
But,
something?
but but one good thing is this time they actually took time
yeah,
to be detailed
yeah.
about the requirements.
Hmm.
So there's not too much ambiguity
Hmm.
in this one.
Hmm.
In the past, there were a lot of gray areas,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So people were confused.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So training that was done online, and it has to have been 6 months. Let's not forget that,
Mm, mm,
right? It has to have been 6 months. Usually, this trainings that you will see people do is like maybe for 4 months, for
mm,
3 months.
mm.
So the fact that they're saying it has to be 6 months and you have to be so IRCC knows, they know what they're doing.
They know what
They
they're doing, right? Because I work in the school district as well. And in terms
Mhm.
of the training, right, there's like a program that these people go to, but I don't even know if it's 6 months, right? So that's only reason why I'm also just smiling, because how many people offer 6 months training for, if it's a free training and it's not you using it for something else, like it's not like it's a program or it's not like it's a degree, right? But this is
Yeah,
all the
exactly. It's
questions.
not a degree. And that's also another good point that you're just about to raise, right? Because in order for you to be in Canada, for you to study any program, if you need a study permit if your program is going to be at least 8 months, right? 6 months and
Mhm.
above, right?
6 months and
So
above.
you're just within that gray area where you can actually do the training. If you gain the training here in Canada, you can then use that. But it's just almost like that cutoff,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is it's just like wow, it's mind blowing. But
Yeah.
okay, so let's get into the job offer, right? That's also another thing.
Yeah. For
Can
the
you guys
employer, right? That's the
the
employer's.
job offer for the employer, for the employee as well. So Kitomi, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah. The employer has to be either a private home or
Mm-hmm.
an employer that employs for the purpose of deploying to to help the private homes or disabled people or someone with a temporary need, maybe he had an accident or so.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are the eligible employers. An
Yes.
employer like Indeed is not eligible. That's a
Yes. So
recruitment,
if you are
yeah,
those
recruitment,
recruitment agencies,
yeah,
placement
recruitment
agencies,
agencies. Those ones are not eligible employers.
Mhm.
no.
Good thing you said that though, because I think that's a very important point. A lot of people get stuck on that, so I'm glad that that was said. Simi, do you want to move it to the next? Because I think we're still on the work experience page.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought I was. Let me share this tab instead. Okay, you should see it now.
Yep, there you go. And I think just to add to what you said, I think it's very interesting that RCC was very clear who can't hire you. It's basically like your family members, so your spouse, your common law partner, your grandparents, your child. So I found that very, very, very
Yeah.
But
interesting.
your siblings
But
can still employ you.
absolutely. The interesting thing is your sibling can employ you.
Your siblings can still employ you, which is good.
Yeah,
They left out just
which
your
is good.
spouse, your
Yeah,
common law partner, your
yeah.
parent, your grandparents, or
Your
your
uncle,
child,
your auntie can employ you.
That's true,
which
but
is
I still found it very interesting because if you think about it, like I think it's just the way my brain thinks. Most times, I guess, yes, if you have siblings that have kids, but most times it will usually be your parents or the grandparents that probably need the
Yeah.
support depending on how old your siblings are and if your siblings are married, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm,
there's also that. But
Yeah.
I just thought it was very interesting because I thought, usually these are the people that they include for like who you can sponsor and that. And so now it's the reverse
It's
of
very reverse.
who you can sponsor, right? Because these are the people that you can sponsor. You can't
that's
sponsor your
true.
siblings, but
That's
now,
true.
so I just
That's
thought it was very
true. That's a good
interesting.
connection that you just made. You can sponsor your spouse, you can sponsor your parent, you can sponsor your child, but for this pathway, that's probably why, because they know that they have another stream for those particular people,
Yeah.
right? So they're like, they don't want to clog it and make it say another pathway for where these people can also benefit. And remember, we're working with quotas now.
Hmm.
So to manage the quotas and make sure that people are not using other, oh my goodness, this I they really sat with this for
Yeah.
sure.
And you remember
This
the previous program, you any of
no
this was eligible to,
exactly,
Hmm.
like there was no specification as
yeah,
to
there was no specific,
where who could be
you
your
could
employee.
hire your child if you wanted to. Yeah.
Exactly, but unfortunately, and you cannot employ yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot employ yourself. Also I know that another confusing thing that people might get is whether or not their employer would fit under the definition, the organization. So please look at this as well. Read through the organizations and know what's where your organization fit into in terms of the definition of what qualifies as a home care health service provider. Remember that for job offers now, you cannot use nursing aid, nursing home as a job or as an employer, right? You cannot use daycare as your employer. So please, and job offers, like they clarified here, early childhood educators, nurse aides, they are not eligible. One thing I do want to mention also is obviously full time, it has to be 30 hours. The job offer has to be, they have to show genuine need. One thing I also want to mention is keep in mind for your job offer, immigration has said, IRCC has said that they can still ask your employer to provide more documents to prove that their job is genuine and that the employer is eligible. There's also that caveat that says that your employer has to have been, if it's a business, your
For
employer, and
experience.
that's specific to business. Let me just say that, right? That's
Mm,
specific to business. If your employer is a business, they have to have been in business for at least in the past 1 year.
yes.
And they have to show they might be able, immigration might come back even after filling out the forms, which is separate from the job offer that you would get. The IRCC can, after you submitted the application, they might come back and say that we need more information in terms of their annual revenue, all of those things, making sure they're compliance with their employment requirement, their employer responsibilities and duties, right? So keep that in mind. One thing I also want to touch on is your wage. The amount of money that you will be paid it has to meet the median, right? Like it says here,
For your
your wage must be
brackets.
equal to or higher than the job bank's median wage for the
Mm,
occupation listed on your job offer. So you have to look more into that. If you do have questions or you want to, again, like you want to ask whether you meet the eligibility requirement, feel free to send an email to us, and then I will have the ladies say their email address. You can book a consultation with any one of us, and then we'll sit down and actually look at it, because again, this process we're doing is just to give you the information. We cannot provide any legal advice whatsoever. So the questions we'll get into in like 2 or 5 minutes. Okay. So I think we've talked a lot about the job offer. So your job offer should specifically be in this not code or in this not code. Period. That's just it.
That's it. Nothing more, nothing less.
That's it. If it's not in either of those not codes, you can't use it as a job offer. So that's that. Um, and then on the day of, you make sure that you have all your documents ready. I think that's it. Do you guys have any other thing that we want to talk about? I don't want to take too much. I don't want the
No,
series to
I
be
want
too
us to
long.
go into questions, but I think what I wanted to also emphasize is March 31st is a Monday. So if you plan on doing it yourself, you're going to have to account, you're going to have to take time off work. The
Yep.
time that is programmed, like Pathway opens 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
So if you're in a different time zone, you have to also account for that. That's just something I wanted to bring to everybody's forefront, because again, if it's going to be like the previous pathways, it's going to be fastest fingers.
Yep.
We don't know what this is going to look like because we don't have data. We're just kind of going based on the previous ones. But if you want
Mm-hmm.
any of us to, do the application for you, you're welcome to reach out to us or any licensed representatives. But I think right now you should be looking at, if you qualify, like go through every step by step, and actually go through and check the box and say, okay, yes, I qualify. Because IRCC, well, like, Katimi said, they've made it easier, but it's very easy to fall into certain traps, right? Like knowing the
Mm-hmm.
difference between your work experience and your job offer, right? So go through all of that and then just make sure. And then if you don't qualify, please be honest with yourself. Don't spend,
Exactly.
don't go into that application, into the pool. There are other ways to become a permanent resident that is not just this pathway. And guess what? This pathway will open up again next year, according to them, the same
Mm-hmm.
time, March 31st, 2026, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have the opportunity to use this time to gather the documents that you need or don't have, and use this as data and information for the next one, right? That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Emma, for saying
Thanks
that.
so
To
much.
me, were you gonna say something, to me?
No, I was saying thank you to Amma for the clarification.
Yes, yes, because that's very important. You might not even, as long as you're still within status, you have time. There's no
Hmm.
need to panic. You have
Hmm.
time to plan and prepare. Do that 6 months training if that's what works for you, and then get that job offer, right? And hopefully by that time you meet the requirements, and there's no need to rush and try to, take somebody else's spot when you still have
Absolutely.
enough time. So
Yeah.
please be mindful of that. um okay, I also just wanted to say, remember that the fees have changed. Also, the fees is now 1,525 per person. Usually some people might decide they don't want to get, they don't want to pay for the right of permanent residence fee. I always recommend that you pay, just because you save yourself time. And if anything, if anything happens, that will be refunded to you in any case. So that's that. You have to, last thing I will say before we get into the questions, when it comes to income, especially for private household people that are employing you, please make sure that you meet the income requirements. Please make sure, because that's very key. There's a number of calculations that you have to show. We can't get into that right now because of time. So if you do want to see, again, book a consultation with us, and we can sit down with you to see if how you can calculate the finance and to show that your employer meets the requirements. But it's very important that you're aware of that. They have to show that they meet the low income threshold, as well as they can pay your fees based on an annual basis, right? Again, I can't clarify. I'm hoping that I'm trying to do it as fast as I can so that we can take questions. But please bear that in mind. There's an income calculation that you might have to do if you're a private household earner. Please send us an email and let's try to help you to see if you meet for that. So now we'll take questions, and feel free to send in your questions. Let me see.
That's not true.
Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. Uh,
There's a question on the
was-
screen from
I heard you can only be a sponsor once in a lifetime. Please, how true is it? A sponsor in a lifetime? That's not
what's
true. That's not for this. I mean, if you're talking generally speaking, does somebody else want to take it? Go ahead. I think you told me you wanted to say something about it.
what does she mean by sponsor?
That's what I was going to ask too. Yeah.
Because
Okay, that's actually a good
this
clarification.
program is not a sponsorship program.
Hmm.
It's an
But
employer
also,
program.
exactly, employer. So if you're talking about sponsorship, if you're talking about sponsorship, but it's not, that's also not true, right? Because there's a timeline, and I believe if you're doing if you're doing it's 5 years from the time that you sponsor somebody, you can't either 5 or 3 years,
It's
but
3 years, but I think, like Kisimi said, I don't think the question is clear. So I think it's better the person kind of qualifies for us. And I think we want the question to be relating to this pathway
right,
more. So, but
yeah.
I think the question, like, who is a sponsor? It's not clear, right? So
It's,
maybe need more information on that. Sorry, be an employer to help gatekeeper.
so you can only be an employer to, you can do it once in a lifetime. Is that what? Maybe phrase your question in a way that we can understand what exactly you're trying to ask, right?
Mm, mm.
Okay, somebody's asking what's of employer. So we won't be able to answer like specific types of employers,
Yeah.
right? So you can check to see if your employer is a residential, like the criteria that we give, right? If they meets in any of those those requirements, and you can use that, but we can't really state which employer is qualified,
Mm, mm.
right? So uh other questions. With this live, somebody's just asking, will this live be safe to watch later? Yes, the live will be on our YouTube channel, so you can always feel free to go on. I'll take some questions on Instagram because I see
Mm-hmm.
some questions on there. What type of document can we use for experience evidence? Amma, do you want to take that?
Like the work experience, or like when you
Yes.
say experience, so like so I guess in terms of the document for experience, you just need to have like some sort of reference letter or something to show that you did the job.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think RSCC, unless I'm not understanding the question, because when you say what document, isn't it the same document you typically use for any work experience you've done, or like pay stubs, like
Right. So
thing,
maybe yes, maybe
states?
just talk about like the pay stubs.
Mhm.
I think, depending on what the person, hopefully the person is in Canada. So like pay stubs, T4s,
Employment letter.
employment letter, reference letter, right? So I think the question just caught me a little off guard because I'm like, isn't that the same document we all? But again, I think we just need to talk about it. So like employment letter, reference letter, pay stubs, T4s, NOAs that show line 150, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think,
Yep.
Kisumi?
Good to me.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like Emma said, just a regular document, notice of assessment, pay stubs, pay slips, reference letter. Those kind
Hmm.
of things are things that will qualify, right? Um, Let me take another one here. If your siblings can employ you, then what about their financial capacity? Does it matter?
It
Kitsumi,
does.
do you want to take that one?
Yeah, it does matter. If whoever your employer is has to be able to show that he has the capacity to pay you.
Okay. And just to add to that, is that LECO that I was talking about, right? The LECO financial, and then being able to pay you the median wage for whatever job they're offering you,
Yeah,
right? Based on your province.
yeah,
I
So,
have a question to two of you ladies. Because in the previous pathway, RSCC actually had, it was based on like where the person reside, where you
mhm,
were located, and your metropolitan. Like if you're in a rural
yes,
area or a city,
metropolitan
is that
area.
still the same
yeah,
requirement that they
Yes,
have to meet? Okay.
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Plus the annual salary, right?
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to know if that was still,
Yes.
because
yeah,
nothing was said, so I figured it was still the same, but just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
yeah. Still,
Yeah, that's still the same.
Do you want to
So,
maybe tell people how to find it in case they're curious, or would you rather people come to each of you?
I can let me see if I can find that. But I think they can, because what I have to do, it's not just the legal, right?
Yeah,
So should we
it's
do
not one
that
size
real
fits all
quick?
basically because it's based on your family size as well.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
that's legal based on family size.
yes, yes,
But
yes.
also,
It's
if you
based.
go to the website of the province, you will
Mm-hmm.
find out what the the average.
Median.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just leave that for now, and then if people have like, because it's not like you said one size fits all, right? Different people, different requirements, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to calculate that.
Mm.
Okay. All right. So somebody's asking, what if the person hiring you is retired?
It doesn't matter. I think as long as he can show that he has the capacity to hire you and he
Mm-hmm.
meets all the eligibility.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Again, back to that financial ability it will be more relevant to that person, right? Okay, so I heard that once you employed a home health caregiver, you cannot employ anyone again. How true is that? That's not true.
Yeah, it's not
I don't.
true because the caregiver you hire after a while, when he becomes a PR, it's not attached to you forever.
Mhm.
They can find
Exactly.
they can find their way into another job or anything. And then
Exactly.
if you still have a need, you can still hire. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you still have a need, maybe for example, if you have a child, you can have as many nannies as long as what
Yeah.
matters is you have the
Yeah.
financial
Mhm.
income,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
To be able to support them. Anything
Absolutely.
else, so you're not restricted.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you guys have a session for someone that wants to starts the PR process and have said kind of, yeah, you can send us an email and we can we can look into that. You guys, do you guys also want to state your email address as well?
Um,
I sent it to your WhatsApp just now.
I'll just put it. I think we have access to join. Can we comment or no?
Yes, I believe so. You should be able to comment.
How do we do that? Do we just go to join the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just put mine in the comment.
Yes.
Um,
Where is join the chat? Comments. Okay. Join the chat. Connect to comments.
Okay, and then someone then is asking, what if both person in the private home is retired? Can they still give offer if both person in the private home is retired? Yes, I think like we said, a retired person can still give you the job offer if provided that they are able to. And do they need to register the business? Yes. Yes, even if you're a private individual, you still have to register. You have to call CRA to get a business number. So that's important to know.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to. I think maybe accidentally got off, but she'll turn back again. So if the person is a private home, is an individual looking to hire a caregiver, they need to register the business. They need to call CRA to let them know if they want to hire a domestic staff or a caregiver, a support worker, whatever the case is. They need to then fill out the form, right? Get that business number, fill out the employer form. So someone is asking, do we need police character reports? I would ask that you clarify, are you talking about Canada or your home country? Kitsumi, maybe you can take that.
What's the question?
Do they need a police character report?
Oh, I think it will be safe to do that if you are here
They
because
yes,
usually to work in that sector, they would need some police clearances.
yes. So you definitely need a police car report, right?
Yes.
You need a police report from your home country, especially if you've stayed in your home country for the last for more than, if not even your home country, any place where you've stayed for more than 6 months.
6 months since you
You
were the
have
age of 18.
Yes, you have to get a police report. You may
Mhm.
not necessarily get for the one in Canada because Canada usually would request for it when it's time. If you
Mhm.
want to add it, again, it doesn't hurt. But for your home country or any place you've stayed in in Canada for the past 6 months, yes, you do need a police report. Somebody wanted to know, let me see. Where is it? I saw the question. What if some what is this child care for outsiders? Why is mom was what of someone that is child a children's church teacher I've been doing for over 5 years, but it's voluntary. I mean, KSA has already answered this for us in the chat box, but yeah. Anybody want to take it? I'll take it. So for that, unfortunately, voluntary, you have to be paid for it.
Yeah.
You have to. A voluntary is not eligible for that. You have to be paid for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And for outsiders, those who are outside, they would just say that you shouldn't this stream is not for you, March 31st. Your section, your stream is going to come up soon. We don't know when, but you're gonna get more information on that. So for now, if you're working outside of Canada, you're not a worker in Canada, you're not a worker in Canada, you won't be able to apply for that. Okay. Uh, okay, I think we might have answered all the questions. Anybody else? Somebody's asking, do we need to pay for biometrics and medicals upfront in addition to the application fees? Amma, do you want to take that?
Um, I personally would recommend, if you have the finances and you want to get it over with, pay for the biometrics upfront once and for all, and then just upload the receipt, right? Because every time you make a payment, you're able to upload the receipt and it will show like your receipt number and should, it tells IRCC that you've paid. If you don't pay your biometrics upfront, IRCC requests when they're ready. But I always just say, if you're doing an application, you're already spending that hefty money, just close your eyes, spend all the money once and for all so you know it's done. But that's just, that's my personal, what I tell my clients. But I know that everybody's situation is so different. But hey, to me, what would you suggest if this was your, like, what would you say?
Sorry, I was typing when you were talking about payment.
Yeah, so the question is, do we need to pay for biometrics and medicals upfront? It's not, I mean, we don't pay for medicals. Let me just clarify that. They
You,
don't pay for
you,
medicals upfront. You
you
can
also
do your
don't,
medicals.
yeah. You also don't do biometrics upfront.
No, you can do
Biomet-
your no, you pay
you
for
have to
it.
be,
You
yeah,
pay
yeah,
for it,
yeah.
right?
You have
You
to
pay
be
for your
able to do
biometrics.
biometrics. Then you pay.
And I should just say also for that, regardless, because this is also another question that people have, regardless of whether you have a valid biometrics, for
Mhm.
every PR application that you're doing, you
Mm,
have to pay for biometrics.
mm,
It's
mm,
just the case. So for
mm.
this pathway, you should pay for your biometrics. That's what I also tell my clients.
Yes,
Pay
yeah,
for your biometrics so that IRCC
get
doesn't come back and
instruction.
delay your process.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah. So pay for your biometrics for the medicals upfront. Do you guys recommend they do biomedicals upfront? What do you guys think about that?
I think medical upfront is always advisable because you save time. Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. I guess with all of that, it's just doing it and just keeping the receipt or keeping the trail record just in case IRCC comes back to say we didn't receive anything, then you have that. But I agree with you, Kachimi. I think if you can't do it up front, you might as well just do it. You don't lose anything really, right? As long as
Mm-hmm.
it's the immigration panel physicians, like you can't just go to any hospital to do the medicals, right? So just make sure you're checking that it's the ones IRCC has approved. Why not?
Right. Okay. Okay. Someone is asking this question, which I think I find a little bit. I'll read it out. Can one person in the family apply? Then, when she gets it, then apply for a husband and a kid.
Mm.
Mm.
I
So I think, if you look at the previous program, you're allowed to come with your parents. Sorry, with your family,
Yes,
your
yes,
husband,
that's what I was
children.
gonna say too. You can bring your dependents, right?
Yeah, so I think it's still the same thing. You can come with your husband and children.
Yeah. I'm curious though, is the person asking because of the fees, right? Because if you think about adding the principal applicant and the
True.
spouse, that's over $3,000, right? And then depending on how many kids they have, that's
Yeah,
Yep,
260 per child. And then, biometrics will cap at 170 for a family. So is the
absolutely.
person asking about the fees? And if yes, then yes, but then it's also like on the other hand, don't you just want to go through the process once and for all?
exactly.
Like, I don't know, right? Like again, I want to be mindful and sensitive of people's financial situation, right?
Right.
Because we know it's 2025 and
It's a
things are hard.
lot.
But I'm like, I've been, like I don't necessarily encourage people to go into debt unnecessarily, but this is the time, right? Like this is not the time to be going shopping. Maybe you have a credit card that no, seriously, if you have a credit card that has up to at least $10,000 or 7,000, so maybe this is the time to just use it and then slowly pay back
Yeah,
versus trying to do, because guess what? If you pay 1,525 now, you still have to pay another 1,525 that you maybe didn't plan for later, right? I don't know. I just feel like if you can do it once and for all, get it done. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that because uh, you don't also not even just the fees because policies with immigration things change.
That's
yeah, of
true.
course,
Okay. So
absolutely.
That's
so
true.
you don't want if you can do it now, why wait another year or two
Yeah,
to sponsor
That's
your
true.
family? And then they'll wait another 2 years
yeah,
to get their own papers. Not only you are you, I mean, that's going to the professional, the processing fees will be the least amount of money you would have to spend because when you think about it, especially if you have dependents that are going to school, high school, and they have to go
Hmm.
to university, then you have to pay international fees.
Hmm.
So
That's
why
true.
not just add that together and just like you said, I mean, credit card, use that and pay gradually. If you're working, I don't think it will be too difficult to
Feedback.
make up the fees.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
true.
It's just um, a matter of, you know, penny wise, pound foolish.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Because even these fees are not constant. They
They're
may
going to
Exactly.
go
change
up next
by
year.
the time you're ready.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
like Amma said, if you have to borrow money to do it, once you have this opportunity, we are saying, okay, this program is going to, it's a pilot, maybe 4 or 5 years time, but anything can change. They can cancel it at any
That's
time.
true. Absolutely true. Because
So
also we're
So,
also in a election year, right? The
yes,
mm-hmm.
unelected prime minister has called for an election, April 28th, May 5th. That could also just change the landscape
A
of
lot of things.
everything, right? So you're
Yeah.
right.
You don't want
Absolutely.
to wait on immigration changes anything every like in a heartbeat. So you want to get into it when you can.
absolutely.
Somebody's
Mm-hmm.
asking, maybe this will be the final question we take. Any idea the timeline for this program?
Well, we
In
don't know. We
the
know
past,
that
in the
the last
past.
the last pilot was for 4 years.
Mhm.
They haven't said how long this one is going to be for.
I
Mm-hmm.
think the
Maybe
person might be
maybe
asking
also
though,
because
like,
of the uncertainty relating to the elections that are coming, maybe because we know that the conservatives are usually not very excited about immigration anyway. So
Yeah, I think they're
but I
wondering
think
about processing times, but we don't have any
yes,
data. Like Hitumi said,
yeah,
we can't use the last one, right? Because though the last one was 5 years, processing times varies, right? If you were gaining experience, or if you were
exactly right.
direct
Yeah.
to whatever work experience to PR, IRCC, I always tell people their processing times are just suggestions. They don't follow
yeah,
consistently. You can't say that, okay, it's going to take 12 months. Some people's applications,
Mm-hmm.
some people have been waiting since 2022 and we're in 2025. Some people put in
Mm-hmm.
their application in 2023 and it got approved, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, I think the plan is to try and process these ones a bit quicker, which is that's why it's PR, whereas the other ones where you have to work first and
Getting the
all of that.
experience.
So
Yeah.
we won't know until these applications are put in, right? So I think this is like the experimental round, and
Mm-hmm.
then subsequently we'll have an idea of what's going to come. But I think right now I tell my clients all you can do is just focus on meeting the requirements and putting in your application. You can't worry about IRCC. Like I tell them, you can't move faster than IRCC. If
Mm-hmm.
IRCC decides to crawl with your application for this pathway,
Mm-hmm.
there's not much we can do. Like, we can help you, we can, but that's it, right? Like, once you put in the
Right.
application, it's in I
That's
because
it.
even when you check online, there's no processing times for this program because it's so new. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
data to fall back on, right?
And yeah, just to add to that is yes, two things I would say to that. Number one is the processing, the like this pathway is supposed to be a permanent one because it's supposed to replace the other policy, the temporary one. So it's supposed to be a permanent one. But in terms of the processing time, again, even if they tell you it's 12 months, it could take another 18 months. It could take 24 months. So you just have to prepare. And in addition to that, I would say within that time frame, please make sure you're maintaining legal
Yeah.
status, whatever that would be look like
Mm,
for you. The
mhm.
IRCC could come and say maybe they will give you bridging open work permit if you have that. But until then, make sure you maintain legal status, whether that means you have to change to a visitor. Just make sure you have legal status so that that doesn't affect your application.
And don't
Okay.
get into trouble and make yourself inadmissible.
Yes. Very
That's not the
important.
time to get into a
Ponto.
fight or anything. You know,
Ponto. Yes, inadmissibility come from drinking and driving. Beware.
Mm,
absolutely.
mm,
So I'm already in Canada as a visitor, do a 6 month program. I also have experience on a job offer. Can I still apply from within? Okay, I'll take that. Uh, so you already again we said earlier, right? Maybe you're just joining, but for visitors that are in Canada, you can't apply for the March 31st stream right now. You have to wait until the out of status slash unauthorized work comes up. Okay, whenever that stream is, if you still meet the other eligibility, more detailed requirement for that, then I believe you may be able to apply. But barring all other, things that we may not know, but based on that, visitors would only be able to apply once they have that out of status path
mhm.
open. On that note, I think we should end it. Do you guys have
Yes, but
final words?
I need to go. It's so great to be here. I have a consultation in like 2 minutes. I gotta jump.
Okay.
But thank you, ladies.
Okay.
It was great. Hopefully we can do this again. Probably you're welcome to come on TikTok. I'll probably go live on Monday again and just do some more Q&A and answering questions. So thank you again, ladies. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kitchen.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Bye,
much. Have a
Emma.
good
Thank
weekend.
you
Bye,
very
Bye.
everybody.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Any
Bye.
final words, Kitomi?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for showing up. Like Amma said, if you have further questions or you need further clarification, you can reach out to any of us. It's always a pleasure to assist as much as we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kitumi, for joining. I really hope you guys had your questions answered. For those who may still need some clarification or more sit downs, please feel free to book a consultation with any one of us, either Kitumi or myself, and feel free to send us an email. I would still probably do another live session maybe next weekend just to get people prepared, a one-on-one consultation as well. And yeah, and this live will be on our YouTube channel, so feel free to watch it. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to send us an email.
Mm,
Okay. So
all
thank
right.
you, everybody. Have a
Thanks.
lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.